Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're trying to unlock a really powerful secret, something key to what many might call true success. And, it might be completely different from what you've maybe thought about before. We're going to explore this fascinating world of inner freedom.
Yeah.
It's not just some abstract concept. It's presented as a path to genuinely transformative success.
That's right. Yeah. And to guide us, we're drawing from a really interesting conversation. It's between Tom Bilyeu and Dan Go. We're looking at excerpts from an article, How Inner Freedom Unlocks True Success. So our mission for you, listening in, is to really unpack what genuine freedom could mean and, crucially, how you might cultivate it, from the inside out.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. So Dango starts off, and he breaks freedom down into these four domains, right? They're interconnected. You've got the ones we hear about all the time. Financial freedom, basically having the money you need. Then time freedom, like controlling your own schedule, how you spend your day. And location freedom, the ability to, yeah, the ones people usually aim for.
Oh, absolutely. They're definitely front and center for a lot of people. Very important goals.
Yeah.
But Gove brings in this fourth domain, and he argues it's the most crucial one, inner freedom. He defines it as the ability to regulate your emotions, to be present, and to feel fulfilled, sort of, regardless of what's happening externally. And here's the kicker. He argues the first three are often chased, sometimes, at the expense of this inner freedom.
At the expense. Wow.
Yeah. He actually calls inner freedom the most essential and transformational type of wealth.
That really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we chase the external stuff, the money, the status, the achievements. And I think we often believe, maybe subconsciously, that getting that will automatically buy us a certain feeling. It's that classic, if only I had X, then I'd feel Y kind of trap.
Exactly that. And this is where the idea of inner wealth is so different. It's defined here as emotional self-sufficiency. So that's the capacity to generate feelings like, say, abundance, security, love, fulfillment, but generating them from within instead of needing external things to kind of give you those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And the article makes this really striking point. Without inner freedom, even billionaires feel insecure.
Even billionaires.
Right? Trapped by social conditioning or trauma from childhood. It shows external wealth isn't the whole picture.
And what's really powerful here, I think, is Dan Go's own story, his personal journey. You can imagine, okay, he achieves financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. He should be, totally content,
Yeah.
right? But no, he found he was still emotionally unsettled. These recurring insecurities kept popping up, these emotional blind spots. And it wasn't just a small thing. He says it triggered a really deep, spiritual and psychological shift for him. It just flies in the face of that common idea that external success automatically equals inner peace.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it points to why. Because there's so much driving us that we're not even aware of. Dan explains that we are run something like 95% by our subconscious. And that subconscious is, it's built from memories, emotions, stories, mostly stamped in during childhood. And these scripts, they're deep down. They can end up sabotaging the very goals we consciously set as adults without us even realizing it.
95%.
Yeah.
It's huge. It makes sense, but it's still a staggering number. But if these scripts are so deep from way back then, how does someone even start to find them? It feels like searching in the dark for something you don't even know is lost.
It does feel that way. And Dan Go actually gives a really vivid example from his own life to illustrate this. He talks about losing a baseball game when he was a kid, just a game. But somehow that experience created this subconscious belief deep down that he wasn't worthy of leadership. And this belief, this story, it apparently shaped his behavior as an adult for years until he finally managed to uncover it.
Wow. Wow. A childhood baseball game. Imagine that. Something seemingly so small from your past, just quietly running the show in the background. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What tiny little memory from my childhood might be pulling the strings today? It's kind of unsettling, actually, but also, I guess, incredibly empowering if you can bring it to light.
Absolutely. And that leads to the next big question. Okay, how do you uncover and, more importantly, rewrite these scripts? The article mentions a few approaches, things like the Landmark Forum, which is a pretty well-known personal development course, also meditation, and the work of someone like Joe Dispenza, who really digs into that mind-body connection using neuroscience. The core idea running through these seems to be that emotional trauma creates these subjective truths. They feel completely real to us. They shape our world. But Go suggests they're actually just limiting illusions we've bought into.
Subjective truths. I like that framing. And that connects to Dan Go's matrix metaphor, right?
Yeah.
He suggests most people aren't trapped by the external world, but actually trapped inside their own minds. They're sort of stuck, clinging to these old fear-based stories from the past, or constantly projecting like worst-case scenarios onto the future. It's like building your own mental prison.
Exactly. And the mechanism behind this is fascinating and kind of scary.
Yeah.
Apparently, the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real lived experience
Yeah.
and an event that's just vividly imagined.
Wait, really? It can't tell the difference.
That's the claim, which means if you're constantly replaying failures in your head or imagining worst-case scenarios, your body and your mind are reacting as if those things are actually happening right now. Think about the implications of that. It's incredibly powerful stuff.
Okay, my mind is slightly blown here. If the subconscious can't distinguish imagined failure from real failure, then what's the positive side, the empowering flip side of that coin? It must mean we can use that intentionally, right? We can like reprogram ourselves. So if dwelling on the negative is like living through failure, then maybe rehearsing future success, really feeling it with emotional intensity, that could literally, as the article says, reprogram your neurology and biochemistry. This isn't just like positive thinking. It's described as mental rehearsal, and it seems to be core to Dan Go's whole transformation method.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And when you connect that to the bigger picture, well, it highlights just how much power we actually have. And frankly, how much responsibility we have over our own internal world. And therefore, over our experiences of life, we're not just, passively reacting to stuff. We're actively building our reality from the inside, often without even knowing we're doing it.
Okay, so this sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work? Like day to day, Dan Go actually shares his daily routine, doesn't he, for making this real?
He does. He lays out some really practical, powerful practices.
Yeah.
First up is daily journaling, but specifically writing down old me versus new me. So you're consciously focusing on the traits, the beliefs, the feelings you want to release, and defining the new identity, the new feelings you're actively stepping into. It's about conscious creation.
Old me versus new me. I like that. Very clear.
Then there's emotional rehearsal. This is key. It's not just thinking about feeling good. It's actively taking time to imagine feeling abundant or powerful or loved or whatever state you desire. Before the external evidence shows up, you're essentially teaching your body, your nervous system, how to feel those elevated states on command.
Teaching your body the feeling ahead of time.
Exactly. And linked to that is visualization. But again, it's not passive daydreaming. It's about more than just thinking about your goals. It's about feeling them as if they are real right now. Because, as the source puts it, you only manifest what you feel comfortable having. You need to align your feeling state with the goal.
Okay, so these practices, they seem designed to take abstract goals, abstract ideas of who you want to be, and turn them into, like, lived experiences right there in your nervous system. It's about becoming that new version of you, starting now, internally.
That's the essence of it. And if you had to boil it all down to one single most impactful insight from Dan Go in this piece, it's probably this quote. Your imagination is the most powerful technology in the world. It built AI. But if you don't direct it, it will run your life by default with fear, limitation, and past trauma.
Wow. Okay, that really hits home. Your imagination is the most powerful technology. So let's quickly recap the core takeaways from this whole deep dive. What should you really walk away with? First, real freedom, true freedom, it starts and ends inside your own mind. That seems clear. Second, we often chase external things hoping they'll change how we feel inside. But actually, it works the other way around. Change the feeling first. Third, by changing your emotional home, your default feeling state, you can genuinely shift your destiny. Fourth, this idea that emotional sensitivity isn't weakness, it's actually framed as a strength, maybe even a superpower, particularly in leadership and creativity. Makes sense. Fifth, belief literally creates reality. We're not all sharing one objective universe. There are like 8 billion unique subjective worlds, each shaped by individual belief systems. It's a big one. And finally, use your imagination consciously, intentionally. It's the bridge, the connection between a thought and it becoming real. This whole conversation really goes beyond just success, doesn't it? It's about how you become the person who is free now, not waiting for someday.
It really reframes everything. Gaining this kind of understanding, it gives you a completely different lens, I think, a different way to interpret your own experiences, your reactions, and maybe even understand the world around you a bit differently. It's quite profound, actually.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought to leave you with, maybe something to mull over. Considering what we've discussed, that your subconscious mind can't easily tell the difference between real events and vividly imagined ones, what future successes, what desired feelings will you start to rehearse and really feel in your mind starting today? And perhaps just as importantly, What old, limiting, subjective truths, those childhood stories or past traumas, are you now ready to maybe start questioning and letting go of? Definitely something to reflect on. Think about this powerful concept of inner freedom and what it could mean for your life. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.